Hello everybody, my name's Cody Spurlock, and today we're joined with
Mr. Nuss.
on a special episode of the Spurlock Spotlight, spotlighting one of the staff, the first staff on this series, to join us. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. We try to find out, what's special about the members throughout our community here, what makes us, valuable to the environment that we have here. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask you, Mr. Nuss, what makes you special?
What makes me special? I don't really know how to answer that question. I don't consider myself anything special, anything unique, really. I try to keep myself as far as, being level-headed. I don't try to really make myself be special in any way. I'm just another part of the staff here trying to help Nickerson be a great school.
And that's been a common answer. We don't really know what makes us special,
Right.
or a lot of us see us as normal people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's such thing as a normal person. So we're gonna kind of talk about who you are, what you've done and what you want to do. And I think by the end of this we're gonna find out what makes the Alex Nuss special. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. Where are you from?
Born and raised Hillsborough, Kansas.
Never mind. I'm gonna go ahead and end this one off.
We're
Hillsborough. Kidding, of course. So
Right.
So you're from Hillsborough,
Yep.
which is in terms of size of school, it's relatively similar here to
Relatively
Nickerson.
similar.
A bit smaller.
Yep.
And but the town of Hillsborough is actually larger than Nickerson.
Just a little bit.
By almost 1,000, isn't it?
I think last time I looked, Hillsborough's around 2,400.
Yeah, and Nickerson's about 700. So we'll talk about some of the interesting dynamics we have in a second. But you're from a similar community,
Right.
What was Hillsborough like growing up?
It was a really good place to grow up. Very different, I would say, from the Nickerson, South Hutch kind of area. A lot of focus and families was around going to church, youth group, stuff like that. I went to the youth group, all that stuff through high school, through middle school, really. And then a lot of the focus was on being competitive in whatever you were doing. It didn't matter if it was sports or activities, extracurricular, whatever it was. We just had a lot of people that wanted us to be successful in whatever we did. So, we had some success.
And growing up and moving on from the Hillsborough area, what was the path and from Hillsborough to Nickerson?
Yeah, so out of high school, I had a football scholarship to Hutch Community College.
You played ball?
I did not play a down of college football.
Not a down of
Not
college.
a down of college
This seems like an interesting.
It is
story.
an interesting story. So we're playing, of all teams, collegiate my senior year.
Of course, you're playing collegiate.
Right. And I'm playing first base. Ball takes me up the line towards home plate. I go and catch it. I'm kind of in the air a little bit. The runner comes, slams right into my knee right into my quad with his knee. Ruptures the quad pretty good. It never healed right, even with PT and stuff like that. I've still got a divot on my leg today, and it didn't heal right as far as what HCC was wanting. So they cut me from the football team, but they still honored the scholarship and all that stuff, so it was good for them. After year HCC, went to Kansas State University, and that's where I got my undergrad. There's little bad decisions that I made there. Kind of ended up not doing so well academically my first year, to the point where I was kind of booted out of K-State. Had to take some college classes elsewhere, work my way back, went through the meetings, reinstated, all that stuff, back in good graces. Had to have A's and B's my last 3 years there, and did it. And then do you want me to keep going after college?
Yeah. Actually, you bring up the story, about some of the academic trouble that you had, and almost having to find a different school. And that's not. I've had a similar experience actually. Believe it or not, I was told that I wasn't going to be coming back here by the previous, assistant principal.
Okay.
And so I think there's a lot of things that we do to kind of set us up. for our own failures. And I'm not going to pretend like it was, Mr. McLean's fault that I got a letter like that. It was, a lot of growing up. It seems, making the mistakes and then realizing, that's your fault. Which it happens. It just so happens you don't realize it's your fault until after a little bit of looking back. And so the opportunity to grow from big things almost happening, life-changing things almost happening like that, are ones that are stories that a lot of people don't like to tell. A lot of people don't like to share them. Not my proudest moment when I was sitting at his desk and he told me I wasn't welcome back at the school next year. Through a little bit of miscommunication on where I lived, that wasn't made possible. But things like that are always interesting moments to grow as people, and stories that I think should get shared more. So thank you for sharing that that perspective that not a lot of people are going to get to have, and for good reason. But hopefully we can make those mistakes for people instead of them having to make them themselves. So you coming out of K-State, what were you looking at doing?
I got my undergrad in with a Bachelor's of Science in Education with an emphasis of social studies. So my first year, I went to a small school in southeast Kansas called Colony Crest.
Colony Crest. I've been around the state quite a bit. I've never heard of Colony Crest.
Do you have any idea where Iola, Kansas is?
I do. Yeah, a little bit.
Between Iola and Garnett,
I'm gonna pretend to know where it's at.
Okay. Yeah. It's one of those towns that, kid you not, you blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
You will miss the turn, you'll miss the sign, and you'll never know what it is.
And there's a lot of towns like that throughout Kansas.
Yes,
so
there are.
You end up in a even smaller school area than this. So what was the process of that like?
So I knew pretty early on when I was at that school that if I stayed there, I was going to get burned out real fast. I was the social studies department, 7 through 12. I had 7 different preps and 8 classes total. It was just a lot of work, a lot of, too much work for right out of college.
Yeah.
I was also middle school head football coach, high school assistant coach for football, middle school assistant basketball coach, high school assistant track coach. So everything. Oh,
you did it all.
And driving bus to all my events.
Yeah, you did it all.
Yes.
I mean, I could see how you made yourself busy.
Yes.
Very busy during that time.
So I knew that I was going to get burnt out pretty quick if I stayed there. Got a job in Larned. After that, after 1 year at Colony, moved to Larned. That's where I met my wife. And then after 2 years there, I got an opportunity to go to, because a big draw to Larned was to be able to coach high school football.
High school football, yeah.
And then I got that opportunity. I was the O coordinator there for my last year, and then got the opportunity to coach at the 6A level as a defensive line coach for Campus High School just south of Wichita.
Yep.
Was there for 3 years. While I was there, I was teaching at Hayesville West Middle School, 6th grade social studies. Loved it there, but that was all told with some coaching in college that I did at one of the middle schools in Manhattan. All told, that was after Hayesville. That was year number 8 of being an assistant coach. So I wanted to try my hand at being a head football coach. So that's what took me to Ellenwood. I had just got my master's in building level administration. So I went and I was the activities director and weights teacher and head football coach at Ellenwood High School. 2 years, we bought a house there, had no intentions for leaving. It was great geographically. It was a great location for my family, about an hour from all our family members. Had no intentions of leaving.
And Ellenwood is about the same size.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar as far as the city itself.
Yeah. And is that a 2A or a 3A school?
They're a 2A.
2A school? Yeah.
Yeah. So went there, knew I was building something from the ground up. That's what I wanted to do. That's why I kind of picked Ellenwood. And then after the second year, they were having some budget issues, and they decided that they were going to cut the standalone athletic director position, and then the principal would absorb that. They offered me to stay on as a head coach, and I'm like, I can't afford that, like literally, because my wife was staying home with our son, raising him, and that's something I wanted to allow her to do, just because I feel that there's plenty of benefits to it. But so that made me look, and Nickerson was open, still in the same kind of general area of the state, so it's still a good location for us. So I applied, interviewed. You saw me walking around that day.
Yeah, I remember.
Here we are.
I told this story earlier today. I remember because I'm at the school a lot, and so I remember you doing your walkthrough, and I remember a few other people doing their walkthrough, and I saw you, and I was like, oh, it's not going to be this guy.
Here we are.
and you know, I'm not wrong often,
But here we are.
but I'm still wrong sometimes. So you know, you're coming to Nickerson,
Yep.
and you've been to Ellenwood, and then also you've been to Larned and Hillsborough.
Oh, yeah.
So you know, two end league rivals
The
there.
CKL too.
Yeah, and then you know, some other smaller schools,
Yep.
as well as campus. So you know, you've been around the state. You've seen a lot of different
Full spectrum.
a lot of different cultures, a lot of different communities, and from the smallest to some of the largest. So you know, for Nickerson specifically, what is probably the biggest difference that you've seen between us and all these other schools that you've been to?
Ooh, the biggest difference. That's a really good question. We've got some really good people here, but that reputation isn't always seen.
And that kind of leads me into my my next question is, you picked up on a pretty weird year, right? Mr. McLean, who was here for a while, also the head coach of the girls basketball team.
Yes.
And you know, he left, but he left at a time to where he also took his daughter, and then the accident happened with the Jones family.
Right.
And so, for example, our girls basketball team was left looking very different from what we thought.
Vastly different. Yes.
And then that also, you know, our scheduling was still set up, you know, by McLean. So you come into a year where we have a lot going on. And for somebody with the experience of, you know, Mr. McLean with athletic directing,
Sure.
Specifically within the school, you're going to have to pick up and learn a lot of new stuff your first year.
Yep.
So in terms of like picking up, you know, I assume that was probably a very difficult, you know, experience, kind of coming in and having to learn the ropes from a guy who knew the ropes in and out.
Right.
Which, you know, you talk about some of the loss of, you know, I almost consider it a loss of identity for Nickerson.
Yeah.
We, you know, through something happened, and I think a big part of it was COVID, to where, you know, we kind of got disconnected from some of the history of the past and some of the culture that was built up by a few other programs, and then it wasn't all there in the past too.
Right.
You know, Nickerson has always had that. You know, some of our coaches call it a junkyard dog a view on it.
I would agree.
You know, recently it felt it's been feeling less of like a junkyard dog and just like a junkyard. And in certain aspects, but you also talk about how there's talent there, and I think that's a big thing, because I think Nickerson has a huge pool of kids with some crazy talent.
Completely agree.
And so, you know, we talk about, you know, the loss of culture and some of the loss of identity, but I think that, you know, we're on the way of building a new one, one where we're seen less as a you know, the junkyard dog, and more of just, you know, a school with you know, a solid school with a solid reputation. And I think we're on the way of building that. So, you know, what are you doing as an athletic director to, you know, kind of help create that new culture and new identity?
Well, first off, I'm trying to keep our young group of, you know, core head coaches around.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of wrestling, I know we've had Coach Sparky for a couple of years now. He's doing a pretty good job, but he's not what I would consider young, Sparky.
No.
You're not old.
Love Sparky. He's a little up there.
Right.
Yeah.
But so like we've got Coach Steckline now for girls basketball, Coach Bruce, Coach Bauman, Coach Nuss for baseball. We've got Coach Palmer now for softball. Those are young people that I believe can have a huge impact on our culture at this school, how we perceive ourselves, how we view what we can accomplish.
And then if you can even throw in, Sparky into the mix and
Coach Workman too for track.
Yeah, you can throw in every head coach of every single one of our departments, except and not just even athletics, like Miss Jenkins with debate and forensics, Mr. Burke with the choir, everyone besides Mr. Sideball. None of them have been the head coach here for more than 3 years.
Yeah.
So I talk about that transition period. Yep. You also come into an interesting point to where everyone's new. Everyone's still learning the ropes of their things, and Sparky's been a part of the wrestling program for quite some time, but he hasn't been the head coach for as long.
Yep.
And same thing for Miss Workman taking over this year as head coach, and we have this whole new line of head coaches,
right?
And so it's to be expected with some growing pains.
Yeah, and like any sorry, not to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Any program, once a new head coach takes over, it's really going to take the third year is when you're going to start seeing things.
Yeah.
For the most part, there's some times where you're going to have people in place that were there. You can step in and you can just kind of continue. But for a lot of our programs, that's not the case. We got new people in place. I think it was all but 2 as far as like head coaches were brand new last year. So they're all in year 2. So I'm excited to see what year 3 for all the people has in store. I think it's going to be a lot more buy-in from whether it's players, parents, assistant coaches, whatever it may be. And if we can prove that these people can stick around, then I think we can really take that next step.
And that's also been that's been a struggle of our district is some retention issues, right? And it's one of those interesting things to where it's hard to blame a teacher for leaving or a coach for leaving because new opportunities come to everyone. But it's been difficult for our district and keeping teachers and coaches. So what do you think could be done to keep some of the interest within our school?
I think there's things at certain levels that are kind of being talked about and done. I know there's a general idea of a 4-day work week that might be thrown around a little bit. We're kind of seeing where that goes. I can go back and forth on that. Just really, we got to support the people that we have, because we do have good people in place here. Whatever that support looks like, it's going to be different for each person.
And I kind of put you a little bit on the spot, right? Asking how are you going to solve one of the biggest issues that face every school?
Right.
But I think one of the important things of solving any issue, but specifically something like teacher retention, which is a big problem, not just for Nickerson but for a lot of schools, is just addressing that is a problem. And I think that the district has done a good job in the past couple of years of starting to address some of the issues. Because I love the community, I love Nickerson, but I'm not gonna pretend like we don't have some issues, and those issues, as long as we're talking about them, working on solutions, I think that's probably one of the best ways we can start to solve them, just by addressing that there is a problem. And so moving a little bit away from that aspect, looking into the future. My goal for Nickerson and especially this past year is trying to help build something to where eventually other people are going to be able to take advantage of it. Coming into this football season, I knew that there were going to be limits on what we could do, and obviously through some injuries, I don't think we got the season that we were still looking for. But I think what we did do is establish some sort of foundation, for the future guys, and so. Our job as a senior, I think, has been relatively similar to what you've been trying to do, as well. It's building a foundation to in the next, in the third year, next year,
right.
we can have something happen.
Yeah.
One of my proudest moments of being here at Nickerson is, I'm the only kid in my grade who did debate as a freshman, and so now we have a pretty big unit, and for N6 it was me and Rhea. And now we have a ton of kids that's doing it, and so we see a lot of growth there. And so I think that as seniors, and you have very similar jobs in terms of trying to create that new identity, to create the new culture, because right. For a lot of kids, they haven't done a lot of winning here, and I pride myself. I've done some winning. I've done some winning here, and showing that it's possible to win and to win. To win big things and to win against people and teams that maybe people don't expect you to win against. Showing that that's possible here is a big thing.
Absolutely.
And so, what are your outside of being the athletic director here? What's being an assistant principal like? What's working with some of the students of NHS?
It's something new every day. I don't know how else to describe it. I can have a list of 10 things I want to accomplish that day. I can sit down, I can start to get work, and then next thing I know, it's 3 o'clock. I've been dealing with this issue, that issue, this issue, just stuff that comes up on a regular basis, and I haven't got my list done.
I pride myself on being one of those issues a lot.
Every day.
So we talk about being an assistant principal, and you have a lot of new challenges that come at you every day.
Yep.
And I think it's easy for sometimes us kids and parents for sure to get caught up on their issue not being solved. But I think one thing that you've gotten better at from as a student perspective is being able to deal with those issues throughout the years, throughout both years of you being here.
I appreciate that.
Of growing. So growing is something that our district has been pushing a lot, the growth mindset stuff, and then also being a willing learner or a self-motivated learner, which obviously it's a little cringy, as a student. It's a little it sounds like one of those the saying that just get thrown out, but it's good to have administration that you kind of can see is buying into the program.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
I'll be the first one to admit I'm not perfect in my job. I don't know. I know several other ADs that they would say ADs,
I would actually be the first one to admit that you're not perfect. No,
I'm just joking.
I'm just joking. And we all have high. We all set expectations.
Yeah.
But your job's a little bit more complicated than just A and B. It's
Yes.
A, B, and all the way through Z.
All the
way. What's it like being able to deal with the day-to-day, the bouncing around? I assume that it probably brings a lot of stress.
It can. I tend to pride myself on being able to be flexible, being able to help whoever I can when I can. There's times where I've got to say I can't really do this right now. Give me an hour and I'll be able to address it. But yeah, just a big part of my job is being able to be flexible and just know that what you wanted to get done today might not get done today, but you were helping, whether it's kids, teachers, other staff members, you were helping them be successful at what they're doing.
Yep. And I think that's a great perspective to have. That's a great mindset to have too. Throughout me being here, especially the past few years, my goal is always to do what I can to make the school better.
Yeah.
Do what I can to establish a legacy here. And throughout this year, especially, I've had a lot of help on setting up some of our, like sports broadcasting, which is becoming more popular now.
Oh man, yeah,
with us.
Awesome.
Some things that other districts are kind of ahead of that we haven't done, and so I feel like in some regards we're catching up in terms of doing stuff like that, but also the adaptability, right? I mean, we didn't have things put together until what it seemed like last second, but
right.
Through work with Miss Stout and you and our maintenance guys, it came together, and we were able to give a nice, fun and entertaining first broadcast.
Yeah.
And so keeping stuff like that, it seems like a pretty small thing. It's just broadcasting. A lot of schools do it, but that's something that we could be doing here until forever and ever. I
We
mean,
got
you
it.
know, we,
Yeah.
we have the system set in place here, and so you
Yeah.
know, we look at you know, little picture things, and they turn into big picture pretty
Yep.
quickly. Because you know you do this now, and then you know in the future you're not going to have to deal with me knocking on your door every day. It's like, hey,
Is this
did we
done
get
yet?
that court done?
Is this done
Is that done yet?
No.
And you know, beyond that, I've also you know I've always you know considered myself an advocate for some equity amongst the activities in sports. And that's something that I think every district has struggles with.
Yes.
And a part of that's just it's hard to understand what we you know what certain programs do.
Right.
Like you know I've done both a lot on the athletic side and on the fine arts side, and so you know I have that perspective on what it's like within each of those things.
Yeah.
So I know the work that goes into to doing it, and you know some things I haven't put in. You know, I haven't put in a ton of work into baseball. You know, I'm not the great baseball
Right.
player, but I see people who do put in that work. So I think that's one of the things that our school does well and has been getting better at is giving recognition to sports throughout. And obviously, there's always going to be areas of improvement, right? And that's going to be seen anywhere. But you know, some of the accomplishments that you know our debate and forensics team have, that's only possible through administration that gives the support. You know, we're also you know similar to the activity. We're going through a rebuild a little bit as well. You know, Mr. Yates leaving, it was a big change in terms of team dynamic.
Sure.
And with Miss Jenkins coming back, or with Miss you coming back because she you know she was the assistant coach here before I got here. But it's you know we're trying to get into there without skipping a beat. But you know there's stutter steps.
Oh yeah. There's always gonna be.
And so you know one of the things I point to is like the 3-letter. You know that's something that used to only be available to athletes, but now it's been made available to you know all fine arts students.
Right.
So you know like and again I talk about like the little improvements that kind of end up being big picture. And you know that's something that now we have you know fine arts kid looking forward to.
Yeah.
You know Adric Nelson, a student here, always looks at my letter and was like, "Where's your white in?" I was like, yeah, very funny. But you know, my letterman I consider relatively decked out, but his you know now I'll be able to you know add the white in to it,
right.
and so like you know stuff like that, and you know hopefully one of these days we get some banners put up.
Hey,
Something.
working on it.
And so
I'm working on a list of what we need to be hanging up. And
so with these, you know, I think that's probably one of the best things about you know a position like yours is you get to make these, and you know it takes some work in the moment, but some of these things you set up once and then it's just there.
Right.
And so in terms of having you know impact on Nickerson, you know it's some of it's already been established, and so being able to have you know certain things that you can point and be like you know Mr. Nuss did that, and you know that's got to be you know you ever think about you know that's kind of a cool thing. You know, kids,
it is.
People in the future from now, even if you're not here at the school or they're gonna you know they ask you know oh when did this start? Oh well you know the athletic director Mr. Nuss started it, or it started when you were here. And so I guess my question is, you know, do you ever look at, you know, what happens, or, you know, what the school is going to look like, you know, when you leave, whether that be, you know, 40 years from now or 10, 20, you know, you never know. But is that something that you kind of look at as some building a legacy here?
Honestly, no. I'm not in it for a legacy for myself. You're never going to catch me say that. I'm in it to improve this school however I can to put our students in a better position to be successful. Whatever that looks like, I don't know right now, because that's something that's going to continually change as our students change.
And you know, when we think about what makes a good assistant principal and what makes a good athletic director, I think that mindset is really the thing that makes the difference between you know a good one and one that you know isn't so good, I guess. So in terms of making these changes, as long as we keep that student focus on there, I think that some changes aren't going to work.
Right.
I don't think this phone policy is going to work. that's just for me. But I mean, you've been really hurting my Clash Royale game recently.
I'm sure. Yeah. You keep it up during lunch though.
I do. I mean, I gotta get the trophies up.
Right.
But that's also, that I'll be the first to admit, there's a little bit disconnect between, my mindset on our school and your mindset. Your mindset is, helping the school without leaving your name on it. I want my name everywhere.
You want your name on it?
I want my name. And, I've talked about this before on here. I love my name. And
Cody Spurlock.
Cody Spurlock. Love my name. Love, and I love this school as well. And I, personally, as a student, I want to be remembered. I want some of the things I do to be remembered. And so I think to be able to separate yourself from some of your accomplishments as well is a powerful perspective that some people don't have. And so when we talk about what makes somebody special, I think your ability to do that in itself, and what makes you special is the ability to not look at it from how can you leave your mark, but how can you help other people leave their mark.
Sure.
And we talk. You kind of said how you kind of you're a normal guy, and I said I don't believe that normal people exist. You're a person who has had so many different perspectives, right? You've been able to look at Kansas through lenses that some of us never will. You've been looking at it from, I think a 1A, right? A 2A, a 3A perspective. With the 6A, you've been looking at it from all these different angles. And so, and then even within our own league, you've been a part of these different communities and different schools. And so, one of the things that makes you special is being able to come into Nickerson with a new mindset, a fresh mind.
Yeah.
One where, you've seen Nickerson as a competitor before. And so you're kind of able to look at it from, an objective standpoint. A lot of times we kind of get dug in our heels thinking about, what we were in the past,
right.
And what we weren't and what we are now. Whereas you can kind of look at it where you want us to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, bringing a spotlight to your position and what you've been able to do so far and what I think you're going to be able to do in the future, I think that's special in and of itself. So, thank you for having this conversation with me, and thank you all for listening. We've continued this series throughout, and we've talked about what makes students and staff special, and I think there's been one common factor, and it's the community aspect. At the end of the day, all of us just being a part of the same team, of the same Nickerson and South Hutch USD 309 community is one of those things that makes us special. And right before I leave this out, there's one thing that I wanted to talk about that I didn't get to. I mentioned a little bit. When I talked about how Nickerson and the size of Nickerson being about 700, and then people often forget that you also have an interesting job because you get to not just have the city of Nickerson, but there's also the city of South Hutch,
right,
which is about 11 miles away,
right,
on the other side of a much larger city.
Correct.
And so I talked about with Alex King some of the fragmenting of our district. What's it like being an athletic director where you have kids coming in from so many different areas, so many different, Nickerson and South Hutch are very different towns. So does that provide, some different challenges as well?
It can. I'll kind of use Ellenwood as an example. So Ellenwood has a Catholic school just for, up through 8th grade. And when the kids got to high school, they were all Ellenwood High School students, but there was also the St. James, I think. It was St. X, St. Xavier, I think. I can't remember. But there was, when push came to shove, there was kids that went to Ellenwood Public Schools, and there was kids that went to that. So it's kind of similar here. That it's something it's not always noticed, but it's always kind of there. So it's just something we kind of have to keep reminding ourselves, like, end of the day, we're Nickerson Panthers.
Yeah.
Okay? And end of the day, in 4 years, once you're a freshman, in 4 years, you're going to walk across that stage, and your diploma is going to say Nickerson High School. Okay, if we could figure that out, and really just say we're all here for the same reason, we all want to be successful, we all want to see each other be successful. I think that's going to go a long ways in helping our culture improve and continue to improve from where we are right now.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And like I said, again, thank you for having this conversation.
Absolutely.
Later today, actually, there will be a special episode of a Super Bowl special where me, Camden, and Riley Bronner will be talking about what we think the Super Bowl is going to look like. And beyond that, we'll have a few more interviews on the spotlight, as well as you can look forward to seeing Mr. Blosser, the principal here, later next week. So with all that, thank you all for listening, and have a good rest of your days.